Hi, this is Wayne from swimmingcyclingrunning.com. This week, remember I said we're going to start looking at preparing you for the winter. And one of the things you do before you prepare for the winter, or as you prepare for the winter, is you think about the kit you're using, you think about the style you've got, and you think about what you might want to change for next season. One of those things you might want to change is your running style, or even your running shoes. So I'm just going to have a look at 4 shoes and go through those and see what they might do for you and what they might not. Okay, so what have we got here? I've got a pair of Asics classic gel shoes. These what I would consider to be a standard shoe with a good deal of cushioning in the heel and a stiff midsole with a fairly soft forefoot. This type of shoe tends to promote heel striking. And when you heel strike, you slap your foot down, you tend to plantar flex your foot and then bring it under your body and go through. This tends to be, or have tended to be, the most expensive type of shoe you can buy. This is not this particular one, this was about £80, but you can pay up to about £130 for a pair of these. Quite expensive. Coming on to these, this is the Nike Free Runner, and this bends in every single way you could possibly want. With this type of shoe, if you wanted this type of shoe, it's more like running with bare feet. But it does promote a midsole landing, not a heel landing, but a midsole landing, which brings your foot more under your body, less plantar flex, so your leg would be coming up there as opposed to forward, and you tend to increase your stride rate, so increase your cadence when you're running with this type of shoe. It's exceptionally flexible, yeah, and I would suggest pretty comfortable to wear. I'm then going to go to these. These are the Newton runners. Now the Newton runners, if you can see that's the natural footfall, and you'll see that it's meant to effectively raise the heel off the ground. So this is a traditional forefoot strike shoe, or when I say traditional, it's been around a few years. Now when you strike with your forefoot, again, you can see that your leg would be coming up here. You're more flexed at the knee there, and it's more underneath your body. As it becomes more underneath your body, you're landing, the ground forces remain approximately the same, but you're much faster in your cadence because you're on your forefoot ready to drive off. And then we come to these, which are 5 fingers. This is classified as barefoot running. All we've really got here is protection against things like stones, etc. when you're running. This is the ultimate in barefoot running. It's not my shoe. You can tell, it's my wife's shoe. These are my shoes. I haven't tried these. I haven't actually tried barefoot running because I'm quite happy wearing shoes. I don't think I need to go barefoot. But it would be an interesting concept to try this particular shoe. With this shoe, once again, your foot is going to tell you what it needs to do. You can land on your heel. You're not forced to land any way. But what you are going to do is you're going to have a fairly quick cadence and a fairly light touch on the floor, because if you slam your foot down, you're really going to feel it in a pair of these, aren't you? So as you think about changing shoe, you are effectively thinking about changing running style. And if you're changing running style, you want to do that really slowly. It's been reported and researched that of people who change to the pose method of running, about 47% get injured in the first 2 weeks. And the injury is always around the Achilles and the gastrocnemius and soleus muscles in the calf. Now that is a statistic you really have to take into account. Now that doesn't mean to say the pose method is bad. What it does mean to say is you have to be very careful when transferring from one thing to another, and that's why this part of the year is absolutely perfect for change, because you have that time. You don't have to go out and do a 20-mile run. You just have to go out and learn the correct pattern for running that you can take into the winter. Okay, so while we're about it, and I want to keep this fairly short, I want to deal with 2 huge misconceptions about running shoes. And the first is about price. And to illustrate what I'm saying, I'm going to read from a book I'm reading by Owen Anderson called Running Science. I'll be critiquing this book in future weeks. And this is about a study that was done about the price of running shoes. And let me just quote. The available scientific evidence indicates that high cost, seemingly more protective running shoes are actually linked with a greater risk of injury. In one study, a Swiss physician analysed the training habits and shoe preferences of 5,038 runners they prepared to complete a 16k road race in Bern, Switzerland. The physician found that during the 16-month training period, 14% of runners who spent less than $40 on their shoes were injured, as were 17% of the runners investing $40 to $60 and 21% of the athletes who shelled out $60 to $95. In contrast, 32% of the runners who paid more than $95 for their shoes were injured, and that's more than double the injury rate of those who bought the cheapest shoes. Interesting, isn't it? So the more you spend on shoes is not necessarily going to return a good investment in terms of lack of injury. Second myth I'd like to debunk at this point is that running on soft surfaces is far better for you than running on something like the road. There's absolutely no evidence to support that whatsoever. In fact, there's a lot of evidence to support the opposite. The whole point of running barefoot, for example, is that your foot feeds back to you the information you need to control your running. And as you go up through the cushioning value of shoes, you get less and less what's called proprioception fed back from your feet to your muscles so that you can control it, which is probably the reasons why a cushioned shoe leads to more injury. And that's exactly the same with soft versus hard ground. A lot of studies have been done on feet landing on soft or hard ground, even people being told that a surface is good for you and a surface is bad for you. And it seems to be always the case that when you believe that you may be injured, you protect yourself. The shoe doesn't protect you, your proprioception protects you. And that is hugely important for you to know as you go out running in the winter. So to sum up, now is the time that you should make the changes that you want to make to improve yourself throughout the winter for next season. That includes potentially investing in a new pair of shoes, whatever that might be. But don't think your old shoes are completely useless. There's good evidence to suggest that as shoes get older, they actually get better for you than new shoes. You also need to decide if you're going to remain with the same running style. But before you change styles and go out for miles of runs, you have to prepare your body for those runs. Doing drills, doing shorter runs, run walks is the way to do it, and that is what this preparation phase is all about, to prepare you for winter training. And if changing your style isn't preparation, if you don't need preparation before you go out running for the winter, if you're changing your style, I don't know what does. Okay, that's it this week. Next week we'll be taking on a slightly different topic in the preparation phase, but I'll see you then. Keep up.